morning, everyone. I would invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to turn in the teal hymnal to the very first hymn. Hymn number 1000, Morning Has Come. Hymn number 1000, Morning Has Come. Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. On the fields this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, a presence in the community since 1865. I'm the Reverend Eric Hausman, and it's a joy to be here as one of the sabbatical ministers this morning. If you are joining us online, welcome. And if you'd like to put your name in the chat box, just to let us know you're here. And also there's a newcomer survey if you'd like to fill that out, and that is at UUAA.org/newcomer survey. Once again, that's UUAA.org/newcomer survey. And if you are new and visiting us in person, welcome to you as well. If you'd like to learn more about the congregation, we have a small gathering in the Redmond room, which is if you go out those doors in the hallway just on the left. One thing that I love about Unitarian Universalism is the congregational polity, which is a fancy word meaning that the congregation itself gets to determine, everything about the ongoings of the church. We're not beholden, not told what to do by other people not here. Part of that work and part of that privilege is engaging in things like the strategy and vision for where this congregation is headed, what our deepest values are, and how we live them out right here in this lived community. One way of engaging that is by filling out a current survey on strategy. So there is a strategic plan already in place, but there's a desire for everyone to let your voices be heard via the survey. There is a link to that in the weekly newsletter, or just stop by the main office and learn more about it. It's an exciting part about the life of the church. As we transition from announcements to our time of worship together, I offer these words from Kathleen McTeague. We come together this morning to remind each other to rest just for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, of memory and hope, is hallowed by our presence together.
What's love got to do with it? That's the big question for today's service. And for big questions like these, UUAA hires big thinkers like Reverend Eric, Reverend Theresa, Reverend Manish, Reverend Kimberly. They just hired me to sing some songs. So, Reverend Eric, I'm really glad you're here today because I want to know what love is. I want you to show me. I've heard that all you need is love. I believe in a thing called love, and I know you do too, because it couldn't be clearer that UUs believe in the power of love. You're crazy in love. You know you're gonna have to face it. You're addicted to love. Okay, enough of that. One of my favorite things about UUs is that we're awfully good at finding love in a hopeless place. Okay, last one. But truly, in a way, finding love in a hopeless place is exactly what our flaming chalice represents. It's the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, a symbol of a light in a dark place, a drink in the desert, a refuge for the most vulnerable among us. Love can look and feel and sound a lot of ways, and I'm sure Reverend Eric is going to tell us a lot more than I can muster from song lyrics. But for what it's worth, I really like that we move more deeply into our worship each week by lighting a chalice to bask together in the warmth of love. Today I'd like to invite Susie Thompson to join us on the chancel to light the chalice. As Susie lights the chalice here in the sanctuary, we invite our online community to light a chalice of your own, perhaps sharing in the chat, the chalice is lit and from where you're joining us today. Will you please join me as we speak together our chalice lighting words? We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Susie. You know, according to the movie Love Story, love means never having to say you're sorry. I really hope this is not the right definition because, y'all, I am constantly doing things I need to apologize for. I don't mean to, but it just keeps happening. Running 5 minutes late, sorry. Completely forgot to do the thing I promised you I'd do, so sorry. Listen, I was having a really rough day and I was pretty impatient, unkind even. I'm sorry. Never having to say you're sorry doesn't feel like a very UU definition of love. We're a covenantal faith, a faith that from the start doesn't ask what do we do if, but rather what will we do when we need to repair, to heal, to say we're sorry. Our covenant reminds us what love is and that we're committed to helping each other remember it, even, and maybe especially, when we need to say we're sorry. So, will you stand as you're comfortably able and join together now to speak the words of our covenant? The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another. Will you please remain standing as we sing together our song of aspiration? From all that dwell below the skies, let's
Dusty, I wish I knew you were planning such a hilarious bit, because mine is going to pale in comparison. As much as I love prestige television, my favorite show right now is this good old-fashioned procedural that also happens to be extremely queer-friendly, stars a very diverse cast of actors, centers marginalized people, has a sense of humor, and highlights the lingering effects of trauma. And the best part, it is completely bonkers. The show is called 911 Lone Star, and it's about a team of first responders in Austin, Texas, and it stars Rob Lowe as the firehouse chief. For example, in one episode, a woman gets stuck in a food truck that is overrun by scorpions who are escaping an eruption of lava in downtown Austin. So as I said, it's quite bonkers. This is going somewhere, I promise. One of the reasons I love shows like this is because in the midst of the familiarity and it always starts the same way and the shows sort of have a formula as they unfold, sometimes they will offer these unexpected pearls of wisdom. And at the end of season 3, there are 2 fan favorite characters that get engaged. One wakes the other in the middle of the night and tearfully confesses their love in this way that I just found so memorable. And as I was thinking about what to talk about today, this is what popped into my head. Quote, "My life has been scarred with loss, and at times it's felt inescapable. But that's the risk of love, right? For the first time in my life, the love that I feel is infinitely more powerful than the fear of losing it," end quote. I know. 911 Lone Star. Because that is love, isn't it? When you choose to love someone, you're opening yourself up to the possibility of losing them. And sometimes the fear of losing them overwhelms us, and we pull away. Whether we're talking about romantic love or platonic love, the love of a parent for their child, the love between siblings or friends, the love we feel for teachers and mentors, connecting with someone else is inherently risky. I imagine that all of us in this space and watching from home have experienced this painful contradiction, and we all struggle with finding that healthy balance. Much like the character I quoted, my life has also been scarred by loss. And for much of my life, I succumbed to that temptation to just pull away from people. Because if you don't allow yourself to love others, then you can't be hurt, right? But I've discovered that a life without love is no life at all. Our story for all ages this morning shows us that to love and be loved is both beautiful and terrifying. And it is essential to being human. Love, written by Matt de la Peña, illustrated by Lauren Long. In the beginning, there is light and 2 wide-eyed figures standing near the foot of your bed, and the sound of their voices is love. A cab driver plays Loved softly on his radio while you bounce in back with the bumps of the city, and everything smells new, and it smells like life. Love, too, is the smell of crashing waves and a train whistling blindly in the distance, and each night the sky above your trailer turns the color of love. In a crowded concrete park, you toddle towards summer sprinklers while older kids skip rope and run up the slide, and soon you are running among them, and the echo of your laughter is love. On the night the fire alarm blares, you're pulled from sleep and whisked into the street, where a quiet old lady is pointing to the sky. Stars shine long after they've flamed out, she tells you. and the shine they shine with is love. But it's not only stars that flame out, you discover. It's summers too, and friendships, and people. One day you find your family nervously huddled around the TV, but when you ask what happened, the answer was silence and shift between you and the screen. In your dream that night, you are searching for a love that seems lost. You open and close drawers, lift cushions, empty old toy bins, but there's nothing. You wake with a start in the arms of a loved one who bends to your ear and whispers, "It's okay, it's okay, it's love." And in time, you learn to recognize a love overlooked, a love that wakes at dawn and rides to work on the bus, a slice of burned toast that tastes like love. And it's love in each deep crease of your grandfather's face as he lowers himself onto an overturned bucket to fish. And it's love in the rustling leaves of gnarled trees lined behind the flower fields. And it's love in the made-up stories your uncles tell in the backyard between wild horseshoe throws. And the man in rags outside the subway station plays love notes that lift into the sky like tiny beacons of light. And the face staring back in the bathroom mirror, this too is love. So when the time comes for you to set off on your own, heavy winds will sweep past your building and great gray clouds will congregate above. Your loved ones will stand there like puddles beneath their umbrellas, holding you tight and kissing you and wishing you luck. But it won't be luck you'll leave with, because you'll have love. You'll have love, love, love. The end. And now, before we move more deeply into this time of worship and reflection, we bid farewell to the youngest among us as they follow their teachers out of the sanctuary to their gathering spaces. Please join me in singing with love and tenderness as we conclude the time for all ages.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are
community puts love into action every day. From our greeters and ushers to our SGD volunteers, from our Zero Waste initiative to anti-racism and anti-oppression work, we are deeply committed to creating a world defined by peace and justice and centered on love. Once a month, we share our weekly collection with one of our community partners, yet another way that we live into our Unitarian Universalist values. This month, we lift up the incredible work of 826 Michigan, a nonprofit organization that offers school-age kids a variety of free literacy supports, including writing labs, workshops, tutoring, and in-school assistance. I volunteered as an after-school tutor and workshop leader, and I can testify to the impact 826 Michigan has on kids and youth. Today, I'm delighted to invite 826 Michigan's Executive Director, Megan Shuchman, to the chancel. Let's give Megan a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Stella and Terry and everyone, for welcoming me today to share a few words. As mentioned, we are a youth writing organization. 826 Michigan has been here in our community for almost 20 years. And in that time, we've served over 15,000 students here in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and Detroit by providing writing support and, most importantly, helping young people to learn how valid it is that they tell their story. And with that in mind, I wanted to just share with you a little bit of writing. We always like to bring our youth writers into any space that we are. So I'm going to share just a brief passage from a young writer named Serenity. She's in 5th grade this year. And this is from a piece she wrote with 826 Michigan called Things I Learned from My Mom. My family is like an omelet, because to make an omelet, you need bacon, salt, green pepper, and of course, eggs. In my family, I'm the bacon. My house is the egg cover, and my mom is the salt, because she sprinkles me and my brother in her strong mom love. I can't forget my brother is the green cut-up pepper, too. As you can tell from Serenity's writing, the work that we do with students can be fun, whimsical, it can be highly imaginative, it can take us to a faraway planet, a world that we've never seen, or it can be a simple, really personal writing about something going on in their own lives. But most important to us is that every student who comes to us develops more skill and confidence in writing, because we know that you have to use writing in everything you do in your life. We do programs with students while they're in school, so we might go visit an Ypsilanti 3rd grade classroom and bring one of our really fun, highly imaginative writing workshops. But we also run after-school writing clubs. We call them writing labs, where students can come and what we hope is find a community of students who are interested in the same things as them. And they also get an opportunity in doing so to work with some really amazing community volunteers who help them to do that really important self-confidence and skill building that I'm talking about. So I am inviting you today to please consider volunteering. We are always looking for more volunteers. And we do like to say that even if you yourself don't feel overly confident in your own writing, that's okay. The point is to just come and cheerlead our students as they really find a sense of community for themselves that we all know is so very important. And just to close, I wanted to invite one of our 826 writers up. This is Avery, who is a 7-year-old writer with 826. She also happens to be my daughter. Avery, you can stand right here beside me. And Avery started last year in kindergarten doing writing programs with us. And I'll repeat her words if it's hard to hear. But Avery, just maybe in one sentence or two, can you tell us what, as a student, makes 826 Michigan so special?
But just feel included.
So Avery said that 826 Michigan, I promise I didn't stage those words, they were wholly hers, that 826 not only helped her get more confident in her reading and writing, but just also helped her feel really good about herself. Thanks, Avery. That's pretty beautiful. We appreciate it. So even from our earliest readers and writers, we work with students as young as 4 all the way up through their high school journey, and then hopefully they come back and work with us after that as volunteers. So if you'd like to learn more, 826michigan.org, and I'll see you in the fellowship hall, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan. Giving is a spiritual practice. Our offering is a weekly opportunity to flex our generosity muscles, whether the funds go to the work of our congregation or to a community partner such as 826 Michigan. There are many ways to give. You can drop cash or checks in the collection baskets as they pass through the rows, and I invite the ushers to start that process now. For those that prefer a digital option, you can text UUAA to 73256, or you can go to uua.org/giving. However you choose to give, thank you for your generosity. Today's offering to 826 Michigan will now be given and gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward? And as they do, I invite you to rise in body or spirit, however you can, and say with me the words of dedication. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you.
I invite you to join me in a time of meditation, starting with just feeling what it's like to be in your body right now. Imagine just how your body is having weight against the seat. Are you slouching? Are your legs crossed? Take a breath and pay attention. Notice if there's any place where you feel pain or anywhere that you know you're storing stress. Just take a moment to breathe and see what emerges. In this time of centering and meditation, I invite you to join me in a practice of loving kindness, sometimes called a metta-meditation. And it begins with an act of visualization. Call someone to mind who you just find easy to like, someone you have a natural affinity for. It could be a person from your present life or someone from the past, just someone easy to like. And imagining them either right in front of you or sitting beside you, say in your mind's eye the intention, may you be happy, may you be at peace, may you be free. Notice what that feels like to really want the best for them. It might be a warm and fuzzy feeling, but whatever that is for you, try to pay attention to that feeling it evokes, and holding on to that feeling, carry it with you to the next step in the exercise, which is to imagine someone you might feel neutral toward. It might be a neighbor you don't know so well, or a clerk you see often at the store but never spoke with. Imagining now someone fairly neutral, picture saying to them the same intention. May you be happy, may you be at peace, may you be free. See if you can hold on to that feeling and carry it with to the next step. Try imagining now someone who might have a special and unique gift for getting under your skin. If you don't know anyone like this or can't picture someone with whom you've quarreled, I'm happy for you. But if you can, imagine them also, either right in front of you or sitting next to you, and with that same intention, say, may you be happy, may you be at peace, may you be free. And because it's sometimes easier to express compassion towards others than to our own selves, imagine yourself now looking in a mirror, seeing your own face and looking at yourself right in the eyes. And with that same feeling of good intentions, say those same words. May I be happy, may I be at peace, may I be free. we continue our meditation in music. Part of me hates to break the moment with words. Sometimes we have enough words. The only thing worse would be to hear myself singing. So there's this song by this group called the Magnetic Fields called The Book of Love. And the song is something, I used to be in choirs, you wouldn't believe it, but there's reasons I'm not anymore. It goes something like, the book of love is long and boring. No one can lift the damn thing. It's full of charts and facts and figures and instructions for dancing. But I love it when you sing to me. And you can sing me anything, is how that ends. And I'm always surprised, although I shouldn't be, at what triggers tears and what doesn't. But along the way, I'm always curious about that, because it's like, I feel like there's certain places where that's getting it right. And for me, one thing that I love about that song and those lyrics is there's this book of love that is so old and complex, you'll never get through it. Parts are substantially boring. It's got all the charts and facts and figures, but it has those instructions for dancing. And aside from that, I just love it when you read to me, or sing to me, or it's that relationship side of things, of how we are with each other, that sometimes it's not the lyrics of a lullaby that's soothing for a child, or in a love relationship or a romantic relationship, it's not always the words, but their facial expressions. Sometimes it's the different ways we connect with each other along the way that are so powerful and relevant in our life today. It can sometimes be a question of if love is somehow more challenged than usual in our world today, so full of strife and warfare, and even within our communities sometimes hearing a lot of conflict and not always managing that well. It's hard to always invoke and be our best selves and maintain and share that feeling of love when it can mean so many different things to so many people as well. There's a movie in the theaters right now called A Case for Love. It was put out by the Episcopal Church, and my favorite part of the movie is they'd ask famous politicians and actors and different people the question of, is love still alive and well today? And like almost to a T, like all of them would be like, well, and the first things that you can almost see, the first things that are coming to their minds are like international conflicts and anxiety about things at home, and so much is not just an easy, oh yeah, love is as good as ever. And I know what it is. That's like, so what's your definition of love? I don't know. Do any of you have a favorite definition? Say it again? Sharing and caring. I like it. I'll confess that I learned to write in a style where I'm supposed to do a historical analysis and survey and then narrow it down to the correct answer. And I can't write this sermon that way. And I just want to be transparent about this because I don't want anyone to get their hopes up and then be disappointed. And so my hope for this sermon is that we lift up a few different kinds of love and that we expand the different possible understandings of it, not trying to go deep but going wide in this sermon. And then in future weeks, we'll pick a narrower part and go deeper. Is that fair? All right. So I was wondering if love is still relevant, and so I started testing some search engine results to see what people cared about in our world. Who's this Swift and somebody Kelsey? I don't know what that is, but whatever it is, it's super popular right now. Taylor Swift, okay, thank you. Yeah. So you go through all of these other things that are really trending right now, and then just out of curiosity, because as a, it's like, anyway, so I Googled like agape, which is the Greek word for godly love. What's that? Well, there's still 19,500,000 hits. It's not bad. I don't know. Compassion does a little better, 73,100,000. That's pretty good. I don't know what Gangnam Style, I don't know if that's still in here, but that still has 345 million. But then if you put in love is over 6,280,000,000. Like it's still, I think that's still a sign that it's as relevant as any time, and we're trying to figure it out. The whole world is trying to figure this out. Clearly, still at the top of the charts, and for good reason. How does that one song go? The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love. and be loved in return. It's such a basic psychological need that we spend tremendous amounts of energy in its pursuits. We all want to be loved. We all want to love. If we don't get enough of it, it's painful. And if we have too much of it, then, well, I've actually never heard of that happening. I'm not sure you can have too much. Sometimes in our lives, it feels so readily available that all it takes is a kind word or a touch, and it's right there, ready at hand. Sometimes it feels like it falls unexpected from the skies like manna. We can create it ourselves and share it with kind words and deeds. Yet we don't always say the words as often as we could. I love you can be a risky thing to say. I love you, and when I look into your faces, when I hear your stories, I'm reminded of the divine. In this sense, it makes perfect sense to me that people have said, God is love, or that among faith, hope, and love, love is the greatest. And if one puts it in the forefront, beautiful things can happen. In relationships, even in obscure theology, love can be transformative. And I'll lift up an example. We usually don't, I don't think very often of early church theology writing. For example, in the writings of St. Augustine, when he wrote a book on doctrine, and he was talking about how to interpret Scripture. You know, you can interpret things literally, metaphorically. There's different ways to interpret things. And for St. Augustine, he has what he calls the rule of love, where because the primary message is love, the correct interpretation is the one that brings more love into the world. Which means if you are reading, whether it's scripture or another book or something else, and you're reading it in a way that creates more pain for people and creates conflict when it's not necessary, you're interpreting it wrong, that the correct interpretation is the one that brings more love into the world. I love that approach. Like, we could even apply that, like, do you remember the poem we heard earlier this morning about the family that's an omelet? So I have an older sister, and so when I heard that part in that in that omelet of like, oh, and by the way, my brother, he's the chopped green pepper. Well, it's unclear at first reading whether that's a positive thing or not. I don't know if she likes peppers. But if we apply the rule of love, the right way to read that is that's a beautiful family omelet. And it would be significantly incomplete without the green pepper. And it enhances it. It makes that the special family omelet. That's what I want to lift up. What a beautiful approach. And I would argue we could even extend that into other areas of life. If you hear somebody, at a dinner party or wherever, if there's a question of how somebody meant something, start off, well, which way brings more love into the room? Which way helps us live into the beloved community? There's a lot of power there. I'm going to be honest about one thing right here, okay? After the first service, a very kind man came up to me after the service and said, Eric, I liked what you said. I'd love more examples. And so I said, you know what? I think I can do that. So I'm going to give you 4 examples right here. 2 from the ancient tradition and 2 from contemporary world. Because this confusion and broadening views on the question of what is even love, what is it even we're talking about, You know, the analogy comes to mind sometimes of if you want to know what water is, don't ask a fish. Because sometimes swimming in the middle of it, it's not like, well, it's everything. Like, it gives me food, it gives me this, it's so, you're so grounded in it that it's sometimes hard to articulate. But the two ancient examples go back to a somewhat random dinner party a few thousand years ago, where a couple people were getting together and having some drinks, and you know, just to loosen the tongue just a little bit. And I don't advocate this, it just happened this way. And one of them happens to be a playwright, so his judgment's a little questionable in the story. But he starts sharing that, you know how so many of us have this feeling that we're like yearning, that we're incomplete by ourselves, and that we're yearning for that special person, for our other half to complete us. Well, the reason that is that initially our species were like, we had two heads, one body, but multiple arms, and we were really powerful because we were already complete in ourselves in a way that the gods felt threatened. And so to no longer feel threatened, they took humanity and split us in the middle into two halves in different combinations, so that we were all differently configured. And that is why we are always yearning. We have this sense of incompleteness and are yearning for our other half still today. I don't know. Maybe. Like I said, so I don't know if anybody's read, so this was Aristophanes in the Symposium who puts this forward, and if you've ever read Lysistrata, you know you got to take this with a grain of salt. But that's the story he put forward. And then Socrates, still at this dinner party, he's the only one sober, by the way, at this point. He doesn't claim to know himself what it is, but he cites Diotima, who is a prominent priestess and a wisdom source. And Socrates says, listen, I don't know, but the priestess says that Eros and love, it's not a god, it's not an object, but it's a kind of spirit that mediates our lives in a way that it orients us towards the true and the good and the beautiful. And it creates that sense of desire and longing for the things that are beautiful, not just physically, but the things that are beautiful in the sense of like, so-and-so, they have a good soul, or like that is a well-structured piece of music, or those things that call forth that it's this mediating spirit that's love. Those are a couple ancient possibilities. You know, if we fast forward to the modern world, you know, we do have some more science that will inform different parts of love as to how much oxytocin is being released, how that impacts our serotonin versus our dopamine systems. All of this, you know, how that relates to our attachment systems from childhood to contemporary relationships. All of these are relevant. It impacts how we are in the world, our ability to experience intimacy with other people, with the world around us, and all of that is true. And there's two more contemporary examples. Just trying to imagine bringing it to life just a little bit more. There's a series called Modern Love. It's also, it's been a column in the New York Times, but it came out as a movie series as well, just doing segments on different ways that love manifests. Some of those are romantic love in different configurations, but there's also other kinds of love as well. And in season 1, episode 3, there's a case, there's a storyline of a person struggling with bipolar and navigating what that looks like in her romantic relationships and seeing in both the ups and the downs of that roller coaster of tremendous joy and tremendous suffering. But what it highlights about love, as we see her primary love interest, like in that relationship, disintegrate, the closing scene is with her sharing with a coworker for the first time that she is struggling with a mental illness. And that scene is the one that invokes the tears and the compassion, where her coworker asks, "How come you never told me?" And the woman says, I've felt this way since I was 15, and you're the first person I've said this out loud to. And our whole hearts just like warm right up. And so, although the majority of the time was focused on the romantic love of the story and the ups and downs there, the real poignant part is the intimacy that happens when she names that and creates that sense of intimacy and trust with first her coworker, and then her family, and then her wider friend circle, of building that sense of trust and vulnerability in a way, and the power that that has as well. The last story is of, this happened like 15 years ago. There was a girl who had a form of leukemia that required a blood transfusion. And because of the blood types and everything, the best donor would be her brother, who was 12 at the time. And the family felt strongly that the brother should have the decision, that they didn't want to say, you have to do, they were just like, hey, what would you think about helping your sister out because she has a life-threatening condition? Would you be open to a blood transfusion? And he says, just give me a day to think about it. And the next day, they're all together at the doctor's office, and the boy says, okay, I'll do it. I just want to know, is it going to hurt? And the doctor says, well, yeah, you'll feel a needle, and then there'll be a gentle anesthesia. He's like, no, not the needle part, the dying part. He thought he was gonna, right? Like that kind of story, I think that I would name as a contemporary example of selfless love that is also on this landscape of all the different kinds of loves that are still happening in the world. And I think, circling back to the movie, that's a case for love, even when we see so many areas of life where love is not present and we're fearful about what that might look like, there are still so many places today where we can name instances of beautiful moments of self-giving love, of other kinds of love we would still, it's not all about things devoid of self. Self participates in this in healthy ways, and to name those kinds of instances and to be co-creators of there being more love in the world, I think is where we're called. There's thinking about the impact love can have and compassion. There's this town in Massachusetts that has these quarterly town meetings. And one thing I like about the Midwest and being out here in Ann Arbor is town meetings here don't have any conflict in them. But if you could imagine with me a small town in New England where every quarter some people show up sometimes in different ways with strong feelings on their hearts and express them in unusual ways at times. But the Quakers in that town had a pretty good way of showing up and bringing a sense of peace and calm with them, to the point that the town meeting that started kind of rough, the Quakers entered and somebody leaned to the other person and was like, oh, thank God the Quakers are here. They just brought that sense of peace in the room with them, and we're like, oh, we'll behave a little better, or they see that kind of modeling. And I wonder if there's chances for us to do that sometimes in the world. It could be in group settings, it could be at school board meetings, it could be at the grocery store. But how do we show up in ways where we get to be that example of love in the world that helps steer this whole ship in the right direction. I'd like to close with words from St. Francis de Sales. He writes, "You learn to speak by speaking, to study by studying, to run by running, to work by working, and just so you learn to love by loving. All those who think to learn in any other way deceive themselves." We learn to love by loving. That's true. May we continue learning by doing, infusing more and more love in this world. May we create such a place of open-heartedness and love that when we enter the room, people feel that sense of peace and warmth and love coming with us. May we make it so. Amen.
I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to turn in the teal hymnal to hymn number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, hymn number 1008.
As you prepare to leave this sacred space, bring a piece of this congregation with you. Keep it in your heart, wrap it carefully like a precious gem, and carry it with you through the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, remind you of all that is good and true until we gather in this place of love again. Go in peace.